Hello, welcome to LK Tuition. My name's Lucas and today we're going to be looking at deciding if a term is in a linear sequence. Okay, so I hope you're well and let's get started. So we're just going to look at a couple of types of questions that examiners seem to ask all the time. So these are not necessarily to do with the formula of the sequence, but just kind of spotting things within the sequence. So the first type is odd or even sequences. So if all of the numbers in the sequence are odd, then any even numbers are not going to be in the sequence. And it's the same the other way, if all the numbers in the sequence are even, then any odd numbers will not be in the sequence. So for example, the sequence is, so a sequence 5, 9, 13, 17, 21 is all odd and going up in fours. So every number in this sequence will be odd. Without doing any calculations, we know that the number 2504, that's not in the sequence. The other thing they might ask you is about a sequence going up or down in 5s and 10s. Sequences increasing or decreasing by 10 will always end in the same digit. So for example, 7, 17, 27, 37, 47, that's always going to end up in a 7. So we know that the number 357, that will be in the sequence. The only time that will change is if it ever goes from positive to negative or negative to positive. So for example, 7 take away 10, if we went down 10, it would become minus 3, and then everything would end up in a 3 in the negative. So it'd be minus 13, minus 23. So just be a little careful about that if it's going from positive to negative. But if it's always positive or always negative, and it's going up and down in tens, it will always end up in the same number. Okay, and then similarly, sequences increasing or decreasing by 5 will always end up in 1 or 2 digits. So for example, we've got 13, 18, 23, 28, 33. That always ends in a 3 or an 8. So we know that the number 422, for example, that's not going to be in the sequence because it doesn't end in a 3 or an 8. So again, if that went into negatives, it would change a bit, but we're all in positive, so it's all good. So here are some examples. Feel free to pause the video, have a crack at them. Otherwise, we'll just do them together. Okay, so the first one then is 54 in the sequence 9, 14, 19, 24, 29. Well, yes. It's not asking us to give a reason, but the reason is it's going up in 5, so every number will end in a 9 or a 4, so it's definitely going to hit 54. Number 2, is the sequence, is 371 in the sequence 1200, 1196, 1192, 1188 and so on? Well, all of these numbers are even, aren't they? And it's going down in 4s, so it's going to stay even. So 371 is odd, so this is not going to be in the sequence, so that is a no. Okay, number 3, is minus 78 in the sequence minus 2, minus 12, minus 22, minus 32, minus 42? Well, again, it's no, because these are all going down in tens, so it's always going to end in a 2. So 78 minus 78 ending in an 8 is not good for our sequence, so that is a no. Okay, and finally, number 4 is 7,899 in the sequence minus 41, minus 39, minus 37, minus 35, minus 33. Well, it's odd, isn't it? Which, makes sense, makes us feel good about it, but will it hit it? Well, the only way we know this is because it goes up in 2s. So that means it's going to hit every odd number going from minus 41 upwards. So it will definitely hit another odd number, which is 7,899. So that is yes. Okay, so that's kind of those tips and tricks about 5s and 10s, about odds and evens. Now let's look at when we're given the formula. So if you want to know if a number is in a sequence, put the nth term expression equal to that number, solve it and see if you come out with a whole number. So for example, if it was 3n plus 1, and we want to find out if, let's think of one that will be 3n plus 1, let's say 10. Let's say is 10 in that sequence. So you put 3n plus 1 equals 10, and then you solve it. And with that, you'd end up with n equals 3. It's a whole number, so it's in the sequence. And because it's 3, it's the third term in the sequence. So I feel like I've just said what's going to come up in the next few bullet points. But yeah, so for example, we want to know if 78 is in the sequence 7, 16, 27, 36. So the first thing we do is find the nth term, which is 9n minus 2. And then we solve it. So we put 9n minus 2 is 78. Add the 2, so 9n is 80. And then divide by the 9. So we end up with n is 80 over 9, or 8 and 8/9. Now that is not a whole number. So that means that 78 is not in the sequence, because you can't have an 8 and 8/9 term of the sequence. It just doesn't make sense. So that tells you that it's not in the sequence. Okay, so another few questions. Feel free to pause the video, have a pop at these. Otherwise, we shall do them together. Okay, so number 1, is 57 in the sequence whose nth term is 5n minus 3? So we just do 5n minus 3 is 57. Add 3 to both sides, so you're going to end up with 5n equals 60. And then divide by 5, you get that n is 12. And because that is a whole number, we're sorted. Okay, next one. Is minus 40... in the sequence whose nth term is minus 6n plus 4. Okay, so we've got minus 6n plus 4 equals minus 40. Let's take away the 4 from both sides, so we're going to get minus 6n is equal to minus 44. And then divide by minus 6, you're going to get n is 44 over 6, which is 7 and 2/6. So that is not a whole number, so it's not in the sequence. Okay, next one. Is 385 in the sequence whose nth term is 4n minus 7? So 4n minus 7 is 385. We'll add 7, so we get 4n is 392. And then we divide by 4, so n is going to be, oh blimey, why have I done this to myself? 98, I believe. I think n would be 98. So we could do, tell you what, let's do the bus stop method, shall we? So 4 into 392. How many 4s go into 3? None. How many 4s go into 39? Well, it's 9 remainder 3. And how many 4s go into 32? 8. Lovely. So n is 98. Great. And it's a whole number, so that is in the sequence. And then finally, is 66 in the sequence whose nth term is minus 7n plus 100? So again, let's do minus 7n plus 100 equals 66. Let's take away 100 from both sides, so we end up with minus 7n equals, well, that's going to be minus 66 minus 100 is minus 34, and so n is going to be 34 over 7, which is no good, I don't think. 4 and 6/7, yeah, so that is no good either, so we can cross that. Now, just as a little aside, if you ended up with a minus number that was whole, that wouldn't be right either, because you're never going to get a minus third term. You always start with the first term, second term, third term. So if I'd have ended up in this example, for instance, with minus 98, that would be no good, because you start from the first and go up. So it has to be a whole positive number. Okay, and let's just finish with an exam style question with a few different bits in it. So a sequence is given by the terms 3, 7, 11, 15, 19, and so on. Part A says write an expression for the nth term of the sequence. Okay, so let's start with that. We've done a video on this already. So it's going up in 4s, so it's going to start with 4n. And then for the first term, that will just be 4. How do I get to 3? Well, I take away 1. So the nth term is 4n minus 1. B, B asks, what is the 50th term of the sequence? Well, for that we just put 50 into our formula that we've just done. So this is 4 times 50 minus 1. 4 times 50 is 200, and 200 minus 1 is 199. Great. Then it says, which term is equal to 63? Well, for that we do 4n minus 1 equal 63. We'll add 1 to both sides, so we end up with 4n equals 64. And then divide by 4, we're going to get n is 16. So it's the 16th term is equal to 63. And finally, Adil says that 317 is a number in the sequence. Is he correct? And you must explain your answer. So 4n minus 1 is 317. 4n minus, if we add the 1, we get 4n is 318. And then we get that n is 318 divided by 4, which is going to be, oh, have I tested myself on this? Let's do the bus stop method again. So 4 into 318. How many 4s go into 3? None. How many 4s go into 31? It's 7. Remainder 3. How many 4s go into 38? Well, it's going to be 9. Remainder 2. So we're definitely going to end up with a decimal. And how many 4s go into 25? So this is 79.5. Since, and then we need to explain. So since this isn't a whole number, 317 is not in the sequence. And I'm amazed that I managed to fit that into the screen. Okay, so I hope you found that useful, deciding if a number is in a sequence. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been LK Tuition, and I'll see you soon for some more maths videos.